Can everybody hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay.
You're echoing.
Just.
Pranam.
Namaskar. I think it's because of me. No, it was technically. Can you hear us now? No, it is because of my.
Yes, yes,
Oh.
no problem.
Yeah, that's better.
Close. Well, this is fine. I have to click it. You will start evaporating. We'll start. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Sahana Vavatu Sahanu Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Asato ma Sadgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirvidhi. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavi bhiriditam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadhatatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhurida Janaha. May we be protected, may we be nourished, may we strive with energy and vigor, may our study be enlightening and not give rise to hostility. Om peace, peace, peace. Lead us to truth and not to untruth. Lead us to enlightenment and not ignorance. Lead us to immortality and not death. Let the self-manifest Atman grow in me. Om peace, peace, peace. Your nectar-like words and warm and inspiring life stories are indeed eulogized by learned sages, are indeed eradicator of shoots of ignorance. These are auspicious to hear, and it is propitious to inculcate in one's own life. Those who take these words to the world are indeed great benefactor of the world. We are studying Sri Ramakrishna and his divine will. Those who have tasted the bliss of divine grace, when they compare with worldly affairs, they find how difficult it is. And those who are entangled in it, not many times they understand the difficulties or sufferings. Those who can come out of it by the grace of God, only those can understand how much suffering. For instance, I have to give you, when computer came for the first time, of course, I took after that. That was, I think, 1990. So I was introduced, and I used to play Digger. Digger is a computer game, and it is so engrossing that I would forget everything. So this world is also totally engrossing. It captures our imagination, it captures our mind so totally that we forget other things. Only by the grace of God we can understand that it is entanglement. It's very difficult to understand. Sri Ramakrishna gave example that those insects live on filth. They cannot understand, and they even cannot survive outside of it. So this world is full of misery. There is no doubt about it. But how difficult it is, how miserable it is, only can be compared when one has tasted what bliss is. And it is said, Sarvam Dukkham Vai Vivekina. For a Viveki, those who are discriminating, for him or her, whatever comes in one's way, outside of him or her, all are full of misery. And therefore, we are to pray to the Divine Mother. O Mother, and this is a special prayer of Sri Ramakrishna. O Mother, please don't entangle me in your mesmerizing power. It is difficult. Even one, when one pretends that I'm a workaholic and he cannot come out of it, it's difficult. Therefore, we are to pray to the Divine Mother that, oh Mother, please don't entangle me in this miserable world. And once one is caught in it, it's very difficult to come out. Those who are glued with mobile phone, they can understand. It's very difficult to come out. So, here we find satsang, the importance of satsang. By that only we can have a little of that taste. And those who are great, they get really wonderful satsang. Here we find Narendranath was such a soul who had company of Sri Ramakrishna for about 5 years. And that changed his life. This is a totally different world. It's like alcohol. If one gets used to it, or like drugs, it's very difficult to come out. Only by divine grace one can come out. Therefore, one should pray to the divine that, oh Mother, please don't give that entanglement, or I should not be attracted to worldly power. So here we find Narendranath was blessed with the companionship of the divine incarnation of the age. And there is a reason why it was so. Because Sri Ramakrishna wanted to transfer his divine power to him so that his message can be scattered all over the world. Though it looks like it's not that important, but it is tremendous power, tremendous power. That power which can nullify the great power of Mahamaya, that is great in reality. So this power was to be transmitted to someone, some pure soul. And that is why Sri Ramakrishna chose Narendranath. And Narendranath was fit instrument for this. And we have already seen that he had divine qualities. And we'll see further how divine he was and how the great teacher, Ashcharya Vakta Kushalasya Labdha. So great teacher, how he imparted that truth to Narendranath. And these are very important. Why? Because otherwise, what is incarnation? We cannot understand what is incarnation. When he interacts with it, then only we can understand a little. Incarnation is, it cannot be expressed. And abhyaktam vyaktimapanyam. He is unmanifested, but as if he manifests in this world. Abhyaktam vyaktimapanyam manyante maam abuddhaya. Those who are not intelligent, they think that I am manifested, but I am not. So while we see his form, we have his name, but we don't really understand what is an incarnation. Only through interaction with his disciples, we can have a glimpse of it. That also we need to be very careful and observant. So we'll see this. I give example of that. That suppose this is a blank paper. This is a blank paper. If I say this is your picture, you laugh at me. But then if we put some dots and many dots, then if I say this is your picture, oh yes, it looks like me. Similarly, incarnation cannot be explained. Through interaction, he expresses as it were. We have to understand that. So with this introduction, let us go forward. And he comes to remove our infatuation for worldly objects and also to impart divine grace to us, to absorb us with himself or herself. There is no gender there. So we'll go forward, yes.
Chapter 6, Section 1. The Master and Narendra's Divine Relationship. Number 1. How long Narendra had the Master's holy company? Narendra was blessed with the holy company of the Master for a period of 5 long years. The reader might assume that Narendra lived with the Master at Dakshineshwar continuously during these years. But that was not so. During this time, he visited the Master from his home as other Calcutta devotees did. But it is true that from the beginning, Narendra was very dear to the Master, so his visits to Dakshineshwar were frequent. It gradually became one of Narendra's most important duties to visit Dakshineshwar once or twice a week and to stay there for at least 3 or 4 days when he had free time. Sometimes there were interruptions in this routine. But the Master was so very fond of Narendra from the beginning that he did not often allow him to break this routine. If for any reason Narendra could not come to Dakshineshwar for a week, the Master became anxious to see him. He would then send a messenger to bring Narendra to Dakshineshwar, or he would go to Calcutta and spend a few hours with him there. As far as we know, Narendra visited Dakshineshwar regularly without interruption for the first 2 years after he became acquainted with the Master. After Narendra's BA, Bachelor of Arts examination in early 1884, complete responsibility of his family fell on his shoulders when his father passed away suddenly and he was forced to break his earlier routine.
So we find one thing here, love between Sri Ramakrishna and Narendranath. So we know what love is. We love our gadgets, we love our property, we love our pets, we love our relatives, we love our money. We don't want to part. So this is love for worldly things. But what is that love? We can understand a little that friendly love, or conjugal love also. But that is not that love. See, love means it is living duality. When one feels unity, that love. So this love is very special, and that we find in the lives of Sri Ramakrishna and Narendranath. And why so? Because he wanted to pour his spiritual wealth to him. That is why he wanted to meet Narendra and train him accordingly. So we go forward. Yes.
Number 2. During this period, the master dealt with Narendra in 5 ways. The master's dealings with Narendra during those 5 years can be divided into 5 main categories. Number 1. At their first meeting, the master's unique insight made him understand that students like Narendra, who was a spiritual aspirant of the highest order, were very rare. Narendra was born to assist in the mission that the Divine Mother had entrusted to him, to establish the eternal religion as required by the need of the age, by alleviating the degradation that had taken place for so long.
So 2 points. One is his talent was very rare. So the human content was very precious. And secondly, he incarnated to assist Sri Ramakrishna, to spread the ideal of this age to the world. So this twofold, we see this one here.
Number 2, he tied Narendra to him permanently with his infinite love and trust.
So this love means it is not bondage. Like here, he tied Narendra to him permanently with his infinite love and trust. So this love is not a bondage. It is unification. You know that Boeth says, there was knock at the door. Who is there? I am so and so. The door was not opened. And then after a certain time, again it was knock. So who is there? I said, I relate to you. I am yours. That also, the door was not opened. But when third time the knock was there, who is there? The question was asked. I am thyself. Then the door was opened. So here, though it may look like he tied Narendra, but it is not a bondage. Rather, this is elevating. It is unifying. Yeah. Third.
Okay, number 3. By subjecting Narendra to various tests, the master confirmed that his insights about Narendra's greatness and life's goal were valid. Number 4. He trained Narendra in many ways, making him a suitable instrument to fulfill the great mission of his life.
Okay, so he had that insight, but that was to be trained. Because say raw material, though it has high content, but it was to be shaped. And that is why Sri Ramakrishna put his attention. Though he knew that he had the capacity to hold that teaching, and he has come to assist him, still he wanted to impart those essential training that Narendra received for last 5 years. Yeah.
Number 5. When his training was complete, Narendra achieved the knowledge of Brahman. The master then taught Narendra how to establish the religion for this age, relieving himself of responsibility by handing over to Narendra his mission and his religious order.
So what is his mission? That let us contemplate that. It is said, Samanvaya Mahacharyam, Yuga Dharma, Samanvaya Mahacharyam, Yuga Dharma Swarupina. The Samanvaya, that means harmony of all religions. Not only religions, all ways of life. Not only ways of life, all kinds of worship. Worship in the temple or shrines, as well as worship in factories, in fabs, so in all kinds of places, even in the grocery shops, or even in the hearts of ordinary people. So this is a great transformation that happened in the life of Narendra Nath. Later we find that expression when he returned after visiting the USA, United States of America. And then when he returned to India, then he explained. So he had two kinds of mission. One is for the world in general. And second was for those countries which are poor, which have lost their identity. So that was for India and other countries. Yes.
So David has a question. In the first point, last line, it said that to establish the eternal religion as required by the need of the age, by alleviating the degradation that had taken place for so long. So he's asking that what does this mean, the degradation that has taken place?
Okay, degradation here we find even today. Materialism, consumerism. You can see today people are not finding peace. And people are after buying things. If you go to a shopping mall, you can see people are grabbing things like this and this. And there is no end of consumerism and materialism. Like this world is only dealing with material. There is no substance in it. And what maximum one can think, okay, there is some scientific truth. That much. And what more? Okay, there is some aesthetic beauty, aesthetic sense, some poetry, some music. Oh, wonderful. Even rap. You may not understand what it is, but that sound gives a joy. And then drugs. And now the latest has come already. Metaverse. And you'll see your alter ego in a deformed state. And that also will capture your imagination. So all these materialistic ideas are degradation. There must be something to relieve humanity from that state. If you watch some videos for certain time, you'll be caught up there. And it is difficult to come out of it. But that is nothing. It's only reflected in you. It is only objectified in you. So this materialism, this consumerism, this attraction for the external world, that is to be, we cannot remove totally because you have to eat. Whatever is possible, at least one should make center of his being. And then roam about. Sri Ramakrishna gave an example. Like children, they hold a post and they go round and round and round and round. They don't fall. But those children who do not hold a post and go round and round, they fall. So in this age, there must be a balance. Those who can totally forget the world, very good, well done. Because there is only one. But those who are flabbergasted with the worldly affairs, they cannot have peace. This is certain. So Samanvaya Mahacharyam, so he did that harmony of not only all religions, all ways, all paths, various approaches. So this is special in the case of Sri Ramakrishna. Yeah.
Part number 3. The master's faith.
Very nice question. Very nice question. Yeah.
Part number 3. The master's faith in and love for Narendra arose from his extraordinary visions. We mentioned earlier that shortly before Narendra's arrival, the master had a few extraordinary visions about Narendra's greatness. Influenced by those visions, the master loved Narendra and placed unbounded faith in him from the very beginning. That trust and affection flowed from his heart without pause throughout the rest of his life, binding Narendra to him with a cord of love. So it is evident that it was based on this faith and love that the master began training Narendra and sometimes testing him as well.
So here faith. If you love someone, faith comes automatically. If you doubt, you cannot love. So faith also can come to such a person who has that quality. So therefore, we love someone and we have faith also, and faith in his capacity. Especially Sri Ramakrishna realized that. Yeah, next.
Number 4. His reason for testing Narendra.
Reason. Yeah.
May question why the master tested Narendra even though his yogic vision had assured him of Narendra's greatness and of the goal of his life. The answer is that when human beings assume bodies and enter the realm of Maya, even God-men like the master have their vision limited to a greater or lesser degree, not to speak of ordinary people. There is therefore a possibility of falling into error regarding what is seen. It is for that reason that such trials are sometimes necessary. The master explained this to us, saying, under quotes, one cannot make jewelry without an alloy. The quote ends.
So here, just one. It is said that this Mahamaya is called Aghatana Ghatana Patiyashi. That means which is not there, it looks like it is so. When there is no water, it looks like water. When there is no snake, it looks like snake. Say when you go to a movie, you see, oh, there is fire and everybody is running. And also you see water, waves, and a ship is in distress. You also feel distressed. So even a little glimpse of it gives that effect. Therefore, a cautious person cannot take everything granted. And Sri Ramakrishna was that. Because Sri Ramakrishna knew if something happens to Narendra, then his life mission will not be fulfilled. Therefore, he wanted to test him. And not only that, he also got tested from Narendranath. When Sri Ramakrishna wanted to touch any metal, he could not because his hand would twist. Narendranath saw that, but still he wanted to test Sri Ramakrishna and put a coin under the mattress and also that bed sheet. And Sri Ramakrishna could not sit on it. So not only Sri Ramakrishna tested Narendranath, Narendranath also tested him. So this is a great lesson for us. Now, for us, what is there? Yeah, you can test Sri Ramakrishna. That is, you are free to do that. But rather, why should not we test ourselves? So that is important. But for Sri Ramakrishna, it was necessary to test Narendranath for his life mission. Yeah, go ahead.
In other words, just as one cannot make jewelry with pure gold that has not been mixed with base metals, so the bodies and minds of avatars cannot be produced out of enlightened and pure sattva guna that has no admixture of rajas and tamas. While we were discussing the master's sadhana, we mentioned that although by the divine mother's grace, the master had many spiritual visions as a wonderful knowledge awakened within him, he doubted those visions many times and was able to accept them with ease only when they were later tested and found to be true. So it is not surprising that he decided to test any extraordinary visions he had about Narendra before believing them.
So like once he was trying to offer water, tarpan, but he could not do because every time he tried, water would percolate through his fingers. Then he started weeping. What about my ancestors? I cannot offer anything. Then somebody came to his rescue and said that those who have realized God, they cannot do tarpan, like this is last rites. It is called Galita Hasta. After that, he was convinced. And then people doubted that he loved Narendra so much that it is like in worldly infatuation. Then he had the doubt, what will happen to me? Then he went to Mother Kali, and said, Mother, I love Narendra, and people say that after my death, I'll become Narendra. Then Mother said, no, don't worry. Narendra does not know. You see Narayana in Narendranath. That is why you love him. It is not your worldly love. It's not infatuation. So this is very important. Yeah.
Number
So,
5.
and secondly, as Ramakrishna said, that whatever is manifested in this world, it is admixture of sattva, rajas, and tamas. So only white paper cannot be a picture. So there must be some black spot or some color, then only there is a picture. So when that happens, anything can happen. So Hanuman wanted to cross the ocean, and a demoness came, Surasari. So that demoness wanted to devour Hanuman, but he became very small, and he entered into it and it came out quickly. So those who are expert in it, Maya cannot touch them. Similarly, we know in our order, we say, Girish used to say that Naren is so big that Maya could not bind him. And another devotee was there, Nag Mahashaya. He was so small that Maya could not bind, because he would go through the net, and this way both were beyond bondage of Mahamaya. Yeah.
Number 5. How the master looked upon Narendra. Of the master's 5 modes of conduct towards Narendra that were mentioned earlier, 3 among them, faith and love, testing and teaching, began simultaneously. We have already briefly described the first one, the master's unbounded faith in and love for Narendra. We shall have more to say about it later. From their first meeting, the master's life was more connected with Narendra's life than with that of any other devotee. It is said that when Jesus first met one of his main disciples, Simon Peter, he proclaimed, under quotes, upon this immovable rock, I shall build my church, the quote ends. By providence, such a feeling also arose in the master's mind when he met Narendra. The master had a vision that Narendra was his child his friend who was born to carry on his mission, and that their lives were bound eternally with an unbreakable cord of love from previous lives. But this love is an exalted spiritual love in which the lover gives full freedom to the beloved, yet keeps the other as his or her own from age to age. In this love, the lover and the beloved do not seek anything in return from one another and are satisfied instead by offering everything to each other. It is doubtful that people have ever seen a love as selfless as that which we saw between the Master and Narendra. We are not capable of telling the reader the story of that divine love, but for the sake of truth, we shall try to provide a little glimpse of it, and then we'll discuss the Master's dealings with Narendra in detail.
Yeah. So, even some devotees would doubt. Sri Ramakrishna would offer some food to Naren. Naren khao, Naren khao. Naren eat, Naren eat. So some devotees also said, everything is Naren khao, Naren khao. As if we rascals have just like a grass, we have come through the flood or something like come without his permission. But it is not like that. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, I have 4 kinds of devotees. So 4 kinds of what are Artha, Jigyasu, Arthati, Jnani cha Bhartarsha. So Artha, Chaturvidha bhajante mam, Janaha, Sukrituna, Arjuna. Those who are good people, some people don't worship me. So we are not counting them. Those who are good people, there are 4 kinds. What are those? Artha. In difficulty, oh God, please save me. Please save me. Jigyasu, who has so many questions. What is this world? Why am I here? Why am I born? What is my relationship with this world? And scientists, they have so many questions. So Artha Jigyasu, Artharthi, oh God, please save me in this this difficult situation. Please pass me through this examination or this litigation. Please save me. And when that is done, then he forgets. So all 3, they use God as their means to achieve worldly things. But the 4th one is Jnani cha Bhartarshav, Jnani, the knower of self. So Bhagavan says after that, Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukriti no arjuna artha jigyasu arthati jnani cha bhartarshav. Tesham jnani nitya yukta ek bhaktir vishishyate. Jnani is totally poised, totally connected with me all the time. Therefore, he is my heart. So it is not that God is partial. You, mam bhajati, he who worships me, I will worship him. He said in another place. So it is not that God is partial. If you love your parents, naturally parents also will love you. But if you don't care, it's not that they don't like you, but since you are busy with playing, so they think, okay, fine, let him play, or him or her play. But Tesham Jnani Nitya Yukta, always he is connected with me. Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate, and there is no other. Okay, let me serve Mammon, and then will come. 2 cannot be served, God and Mammon. Therefore, such a devotee is special in the eyes of God, and such a devotee cannot live without God. Go ahead.
Number 6. The erroneous impressions that ordinary people had about Narendra. From their first meeting, just as Narendra was attracted to the Master upon seeing his one-pointed devotion, purity, and renunciation, So the master observed Narendra's indomitable self-confidence, courage, and passion for truth, and was moved to make Narendra his own student. Leaving aside the master's yogic vision about Narendra's greatness and bright future, if we try to uncover the reason for their reciprocal attraction, we find it in our previous statement. Some people who lacked insight considered Narendra's wonderful self-confidence to be pride, his indomitable vigor to be arrogance, and his uncompromising love of truth to be either pain or a sign of an immature intellect. They undoubtedly came to that conclusion from seeing his complete indifference to praise, his outspokenness, and his free and forthright behavior in all matters. Above all, they saw that he had no fear of what others thought of him and never kept anything he did secret. We remember that before we met Narendra, one of his neighbors told us about him. Under course, there's a boy in that house. I have never known anyone so hopelessly spoiled. Since he got his Bachelor of Arts degree, he's so vain. He thinks that nothing in the whole world matters but him. When his father and other older people are present, he will quite rudely start singing and beating his drum without any respect. He walks through the street smoking cigars in the presence of respected elder neighbors. He is heedless in every respect.
So this is somebody's remark, but behind that, what they missed is his indomitable will for truth, courage, passion for truth, and self-confidence. So this was not, they cannot notice this. It is not their fault. But apparently he was like that, because his time was less. Even when he was in the USA, people said that not to argue with priests and missionaries. But he said, in one of his letter, he said, the son of light cannot compromise. And he later said also that the society should pay homage to truth for its own survival. But truth should not pay homage to the society. So this is, truth is such that we are to honor. It may be difficult to swallow. It's unpalatable. But it is for our good that we follow that. And teacher should be bold enough to pronounce those teachings. And he did this. Not only here, even in England that happened. People could not digest him. His boldness, his uncompromising attitude. They wanted to, namby-pamby and all the time, okay, you go ahead. Not like that. He was relentless in that sense. And he said that I have no time. I have less time. Therefore, I have to deliver what I am supposed to do. Yes, go ahead.
Number 7. The author hears the master praise Narendra. Author in this case is Swami Sarananda. Shortly after this, during our second or third visit to Dakshineshwar, the master praised Narendra's noble qualities. While talking to Ratan, the manager of Jadu Mallik's garden house, the master pointed to us and said, in quotes, these boys are good, they are polite and gentle, and they have 1.5 degrees. In brackets, we were then preparing for our final FA examination. But I have never seen another boy like Narendra. He is as proficient in vocal and instrumental music as he is in studies, in conversation, and in religious matters. He meditates the entire night and is completely unaware when morning comes. Narendra isn't like a fake coin. If you test him as a money changer checks a coin by tapping it, you will hear the right sound. I see other boys.
So that time they used to, take the coin here and was tossed like this. And it should give right sound. They used to check like that. So now we have paper currency, and for that we have scanner. But that time there was no scanner, it was like solid. So they used to, and that had particular sound. People would see like this. So that way the people used to check their genuineness of coin. So Narendra was tasted by Sri Ramakrishna like that, and because he saw enormous potency in him. Yeah.
Sri Ramakrishna's quote continues. I see other boys pass 2 or 3 examinations somehow by working as hard as they can.
So that time, high school is one exam, and first art is second. So people, those who are preparing for that, like 12th class. So Sri Ramakrishna in his homely way would say 1.5 and two pass, and 3 then be a degree there. So 3 examinations like that. Yeah.
I see other boys pass 2 or 3 examinations somehow by working as hard as they can, and there it ends, as if they used up all their energy in accomplishing this. But Narendra isn't like that. He does everything with ease and joy, and passing an examination is a trifling thing for him. He also goes to the Brahma Samaj and sings devotional songs there. But he isn't like the other Brahmins. He is a true knower of Brahman. He sees the light when he sits for meditation. Is it for nothing that I love Narendra so much? The quote ends. This made us long to meet him, and we asked the master, under quotes, Sir, where does Narendra live? Master replied, Narendra is a son of Vishwanath Datta of Shimla, Calcutta. When we later returned to Calcutta, we learned that the master's highly praised Narendra was the same young man whom his neighbor had harshly criticized earlier. We were amazed by this and thought about how we sometimes misjudge a person based on his or her behavior.
So here, nothing to it. Yeah, go ahead.
Number 8. The author's mistaken impression of Narendra when they first met. It will not be out of place to mention another incident in connection with this topic. A few months before we heard the master praise Narendra, we had an opportunity to meet him at a friend's house. We saw him that day, but did not try to talk to him because of our mistaken ideas about him. However, what he said on that occasion was so deeply imprinted on our memory that even after so much time has passed, it seems as though we heard it just yesterday. It is necessary to explain to the reader the circumstances in which we heard Narendra's conversation, or it will not be clear how we developed a wrong impression of him on that day.
So another thing, what we find here, Sri Ramakrishna is also introducing Narendranath to others. That's why he would praise Narendranath. And that is why Sri Sharadananji Maharaj also wanted to meet him. And to his amazement, it is the same person whom his neighbor could not recognize. So this way, Sri Ramakrishna was arranging his other disciples also around Narendranath, so that later they can help each other. Yes.
Number 9. The author meets Narendra for the first time at a friend's house. We met Narendra that day at a house that our friend had rented. It was a 2-storied building on Gaurav Mohan Mukherjee Street, Shimla, in front of Narendra's house. We had been classmates with his friend for 4 or 5 years. A couple of years before the entrance examination, our friend decided to go to England and traveled as far as Bombay but could go no further. He became a newspaper editor and was preparing some books of collected articles and poems that he had written in Bengali. He had married sometime prior to this incident, and some people told us that he was leading a wayward life and earning money by unscrupulous means. To ascertain the truth, we went to his house that day without warning. Number 10. Narendra's behavior at the time. We sent word of our arrival through a servant and waited in the living room. In the meantime, a young man suddenly entered the room as if he were known to the owner of the house. Without any hesitation, he reclined on a bolster and began to softly sing a Hindi song. As far as we remembered, that song was connected with Krishna, as we distinctly heard two words, Kanai, which means Krishna, and Bansuri, which means flute. The young man was well dressed and his hair was nicely combed, although he was not foppish. Because he was absent-mindedly singing a love song about Krishna and was closely associated with our wayward friend, we could not come to a favorable opinion of him. He simply ignored our presence. As we observed his carefree manner and watched him smoking tobacco, we concluded that he was a true companion of our wayward friend who had gone astray by associating with this kind of person. At any rate, although he knew we were present, he remained aloof, absorbed in his own thoughts, so we did not try to talk to him.
So here we see whatever companion we have, that is the reflection of our character. So naturally he thought, Swami Sharadanji thought that time, Sharat, that he is right companion of that wayward friend. Yeah, go ahead.
Number 11. Narendra's discussion with our friend on literature. After a while, our friend came into the living room. Although it had been a long time since we last met, he greeted us with only a few words, then turned joyfully to talk to the young man on various topics. We did not like his indifference, but we felt that it would be discourteous to leave abruptly. So we began listening to the conversation between our literary friend and this young man. The subject was English and Bengali literature. Although both agreed to a great extent that classical literature must correctly express human sentiments, they had a difference of opinion about whether every expression of human sentiments should be considered as literature. As far as we can remember, our friend took the stand that all kinds of writing that express human feelings should be considered as literature, but the young man refuted this. He tried to convince our friend that while literature might correctly express good or bad sentiments, it could not be considered classical unless it was written with good taste or it set a high ideal. In support of his position, the young man mentioned the books of famous English and Bengali writers, beginning with Chaucer, and showed how each of them had achieved immortality in the literary world by following that principle. In conclusion, the young man said, underquote, although people experience both positive and negative feelings, they always try to hold to a particular ideal within themselves.
So before that, we have various medium. Say medium, painting. So through painting, we must express what cannot be expressed. Similarly, we have architecture. We must do something. We create a space by our architectural knowledge. But if you do just a living quarters, it has no meaning. It has just ordinary. But if you can give an idea through your creation, so that is something which is indicating a lofty ideal. So what Swamiji, and that young man, naturally he was Swamiji, that is what he said, that he tried to convince our friend that while literature might correctly express good or bad sentiments, because literature, it goes, pros and cons. Say like a drama, there cannot be monologue. There must be dialogue. So one will be doubting, one will be removing the doubt. So good and bad are shown like that. Sentiments. It could not be considered classical unless it was written with good taste or it set a high ideal. So high ideal, and that is why we appreciate some poem or some literature because we find something unique there. And it must express high ideal. That is what he wanted to say. In support of this, his position, the young man mentioned the books of famous English and Bengali writers. So this is, so he took this, and we'll see that his comment. Yes, go ahead.
In conclusion, the young man said, under quotes, although people experience both positive and negative feelings, they always try to hold to a particular ideal within themselves. The differences that exist among people are based on how completely they realize and manifest their particular ideals. Ordinary people consider the enjoyment of sense objects to be permanent and real, and they are satisfied with achieving those pleasures as the goal of life. They idealize what is apparently real. There's a little difference between these people and animals. Writers such as they could never create classical literature.
So here, so number one is discarding those who idealize worldly attainment, worldly moods, worldly attitudes. So he said, okay, they are not animals, but not far from it. So yeah, next.
Moreover, there's another kind of human being who isn't satisfied with the enjoyment of pleasures that appear to be real. These people hold the highest ideal within themselves and strive to fit everything they encounter into that mold. They want to realize the ideal. Only people such as they can create true literature. Among these, there are people who are eager to translate the very highest ideal into their lives. They generally have to renounce worldly life. I have seen only Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa of Dakshineshwar, who fully embodies the highest ideal in his life. And that's why I revere him.
You see, we have Ramayana and Mahabharata. And we have heard so many times, same Rama goes to the forest and he conquers Ravana. But though we hear again and again, Puni Puni, that we hear again and again, but never we are satisfied. Why? Because the ideal is shown through that story. Similarly, Mahabharata says, Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So we can study for the whole life, but still we cannot outgrow it. What is the meaning? Like truth cannot be outgrown. You cannot surpass truth. As you grow, it looks like it is also growing. So ideal is such that you cannot overgrow it. So in Ramayana, Mahabharata, and for others, say like some literatures, good simile, but you cannot find that that ideal that should be depicted. Therefore, they are lower. And those who have the ideals, even some, very few excel in it. Yeah, that is what is being said here. Okay. So have you completed this?
Yes, I have completed that part. We'll start from number 12 next.
Okay. So thank you very much. Hope there is no other questions.
I had a question.
Okay, go ahead.
What is the difference between incarnation and a saint?
Okay, saint somehow attains that goal. But incarnation comes to depict how to attain it. And not only he attains himself, but he shows the way for the greater good of the world. So here we see, say Buddha, not only he attained, but he showed a path. Similarly, Krishna, Rama, they attained, but they showed a path for the world. Similarly, we find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Shankaracharya and Sri Ramakrishna. So Sri Ramakrishna not only attained through various means, various paths, but he showed how to do it. That's why practical Vedanta. So Swami Vivekananda later explained how to achieve that state while being in this world, in the day-to-day world. How we can convert our work as worship. So this way, ordinary sadhakas or ordinary human being cannot do this. Only incarnations can do. So that's why they are special. What is it? David? Is there in David's question?
No.
Okay.
No. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll see our prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tassat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. There is another slok. Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Drita Vigraham Ishavataram Parameshmityam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasanamama. So here it is for the out of compassion for humanity that he incarnated. So Niranjanam, that who is untainted, Nityam, eternal, Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam, and he has in numerous forms, manifestations. Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa. So it is called Lokanu Jikrikshaya. It is for the welfare of the people. That's why we find in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. I incarnate for redeeming good people and destroying bad elements from this world. And this goes on with time, again and again he has to come. So Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa. Devotees also cannot live without God. So they pray to divine. And sometimes that prayer is answered in the form of incarnation. The Bhaktanukampa Dhrita Vigraham Vai. And also, there is a third one. It is for divine lila. They come to have this divine sport. So for this reason, they incarnate. But ordinary people, somehow they attain. Sri Ramakrishna would say, Rishira Bhaya Tarashi. So rishis were afraid. Oh, they'll be entangled. So somehow, Joshu Kore, somehow they would attain the highest. But he would give another allegory that, there is a Chaucer or like Ludo, or say chess, not chess, it's a Chaucer. So somehow one goes and then one matures, they cannot come out. But those who are expert player, they make their pawns restart from the beginning and then again go and return beforehand. So only experts can do it, not ordinary people. Yeah. Thank you.
Pranam Maharaj.
प्रणाम स्वामी जी
Thank you, Swami. Namaste.
Namaste, Hari Om. Namaste, namaste to all.
जय माँ
Jai Ma. Hari Om. Thank you.